Hello, my name is Sophia, and I want to share with you the story of how I started practicing English with an American accent. I wasn't born in America. I never even visited the US, but I've always loved the way Americans speak so smooth, confident, and expressive. I didn't just want to speak English. I wanted to sound natural, like a native speaker you could meet in New York or California. So I made a decision. I would practice until my English voice sounded like the voice I always imagined in my dreams. And that's what I want to show you today. When I first realized that I wanted to sound more like an American English speaker, I didn't know where to start. I had been learning English for years, through school, books, online courses, but my voice still didn't match the sound I admired in movies or American podcasts. My grammar was okay, my vocabulary wasn't bad, and yet every time I spoke, I felt like there was a wall between me and the natural flow of native speech. It didn't matter how many words I knew. My sentences felt mechanical, and my rhythm was awkward. Something was missing. That something was the music of the American accent. That realization didn't hit me in a classroom. It came one evening when I was watching an interview with Jennifer Lawrence on YouTube. She laughed, talked fast, interrupted herself, used casual contractions like "lemmy" and "gonna," and yet it all sounded so smooth. There was energy in her tone, a certain playfulness and lightness. I paused the video and tried to copy her sentence. I failed. I tried again. Still wrong. That's when it clicked. I was trying to speak before I had really heard. I was trying to imitate a sound I had never truly studied. And so I decided that before my mouth ever tried again, I had to train my ears. I started by changing my environment. I didn't live in America. I didn't have American friends. But I did have the internet, and that became my classroom. I subscribed to American YouTubers, not just English teachers, but real-life vloggers, comedians, daily bloggers. I followed podcasts that had unscripted, natural American conversations. I downloaded apps that let me listen to radio stations in New York and Los Angeles. I made a playlist of American songs with clear lyrics and repeated them endlessly. I wasn't just listening, I was studying sound. Each morning, before I even brushed my teeth, I'd press play on a podcast. I'd listen to voices that were fast, relaxed, filled with slang and emotion. At first, it was overwhelming. Native speakers talk quickly and use phrases I had never heard before. But I didn't panic. I had made myself a promise. I wouldn't chase words. I would chase rhythm. I didn't need to understand every single line. I just needed to feel the beat, the rise and fall, the way their voices danced. I began noticing things I had missed for years. Americans rarely speak word by word. Their words blend. Did you eat yet? Becomes jeet yet? I want to go turns into I wanna go. And their T sounds? They often disappear. Better sounds like better. Water becomes water. These tiny changes were never in grammar books, but they were everywhere in the real world. I started shadowing. Shadowing is when you listen to a native speaker and immediately repeat what they say, trying to match their tone, pace, and sound exactly. At first, I chose short video clips, 10 seconds, maybe 15. I'd play a sentence, pause, and mimic. Then again, and again, sometimes 20 times for one sentence. I didn't just want to copy. I wanted to merge with the voice. I wanted to feel like that voice was mine. I used mirrors to watch my mouth. I paid attention to my jaw, my lips, my tongue. I was practicing like a singer learning a new genre, one that required not just words, but style. I also discovered something strange. Training your ears changes the way your brain thinks. I started hearing English differently. In movies, instead of reading subtitles, I started catching phrases. I noticed sarcasm, emotion, pauses. My brain was starting to understand the language on a different level, not just for meaning, but for sound design. I could now tell the difference between British and American English easily. I even began picking up which U.S. region a speaker was from: Southern twang, West Coast chill, New York directness. My ears had leveled up. I made this training a daily ritual. 10 minutes of podcast shadowing in the morning, short clip mimicking in the afternoon, music lyric repetition in the evening. I didn't do it perfectly. Some days I forgot. Some days I was too tired. But I never gave up for long. I was committed to building a voice that didn't just speak English, it spoke American English. And the more I listened, the more natural it felt. Then came a moment I'll never forget. I was sitting in my room, headphones on, repeating a sentence from a YouTuber. In LA, it was something simple. "You guys want to come over later?" But when I repeated it that day, something felt different. My voice didn't sound like my old self anymore. It was relaxed. It flowed. The words linked. There was music in it. For the first time, I smiled and thought, that actually sounds American. Of course, it wasn't perfect, but it was real progress. That was the day I realized my ears were finally tuned. I had spent weeks, maybe months, listening, absorbing, copying. And now my mind was no longer translating. It was feeling the language. My voice wanted to speak now. My tongue was ready. I had built the foundation, and it was time to go further. I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "Okay, Sophia, now it's your turn to talk." After all those days of listening, absorbing, and training my ears, something inside me shifted. I could hear the rhythm of American English like never before. I no longer needed subtitles to catch fast dialogue. I started recognizing filler phrases like, "You know what I mean?" and "kinda" as natural expressions, not strange shortcuts. And most of all, I could feel the sound of American English living in my head. But just understanding wasn't enough. It was time to speak. And not just speak. Speak out loud, regularly, even if no one was listening. Actually, especially if no one was listening. At first I was scared. Isn't it strange to talk to yourself? Won't I sound ridiculous? These thoughts kept popping into my head, but then I remembered something one of the YouTubers had said in a pronunciation video. If you're not brave enough to sound silly alone, how will you ever sound confident in front of others? That line hit me like lightning. I needed to stop being shy with myself, because speaking out loud, even alone, was the bridge between knowing the sound and owning it. So I made a promise to myself. Every day, no matter what, I would speak English out loud for at least 15 minutes. It didn't matter where I was. My room, the bathroom, the park, even while washing dishes. I would treat English like my thinking voice, not just my learning subject. In the beginning, it felt awkward. I would look at myself in the mirror and try to say simple sentences like, "Hi, my name is Sophia. I'm practicing American English." And even that felt hard. I stumbled. My tongue felt stiff. My accent wobbled. But I kept going. I forced myself to look myself in the eyes and repeat it again and again. I imagined I was on a talk show, being interviewed in front of a live audience. I even gave myself fake questions to answer. "Sophia, tell us about your day. How did you start learning English? What's your favorite American TV show and why?" I played both the interviewer and the guest. It was silly, yes, but it worked. What made it powerful wasn't the content of what I said, it was the habit. I wasn't waiting for a teacher or a friend to practice with me. I was taking control of my own progress. Every time I spoke, I gave my tongue a new workout. I let my voice stumble and recover. I learned how to breathe through sentences, how to link words together, and how to stress the right syllables. I also created what I called my shadowing corner in my room. It was just a small space with a mirror, a ring light, and a Bluetooth speaker. That became my private studio. I would play a short video of an American speaker, sometimes a vlogger, sometimes a TED speaker, and mimic their voice line by line. I paused, repeated, rewound. If they said, "I can't believe this happened," I would say it 10 times until I felt my voice match theirs. Sometimes I recorded myself and compared the audio. It was painful at first to hear my voice, but that's how I discovered what needed work. My R was too soft. My TH sounded like D. My tone was too flat. But instead of feeling bad, I felt energized. These were things I could fix. Over time, I stopped using just scripted videos. I began creating my own monologues. I would look around the room and describe everything in English, with an American tone. "That's a black chair. I bought it last year. It's kind of comfortable, but not perfect." I would talk about my day as if I were narrating a documentary. "So today I woke up kinda late and I was like, oh no, not again." I wasn't trying to be proper. I was trying to be natural. I also made use of everyday chores. While cooking, I'd say the recipe steps out loud. Now I'm adding the onions. Gotta stir them until they're brown. While walking, I'd pretend I was giving a podcast interview, describing the trees, the weather, even my feelings. "It's pretty hot today, huh? I should have brought some water or at least worn lighter clothes." Speaking became part of my daily thinking. I didn't have to stop and wonder if I was practicing. I just was. One breakthrough moment happened late one evening. I was doing dishes, tired after a long day, and I caught myself talking in English without realizing it. I was mumbling to myself, "Ugh, I forgot to soak this pan earlier. Now I gotta scrub it like crazy." I paused. I smiled. That moment told me, "Sophia, this is working. You're not just studying English anymore. You're living it." Another thing I started doing was voice journaling. Every night before bed, I would record a voice note on my phone, speaking for 5-10 minutes in English. No script, no pressure. Just thoughts, memories, reflections, anything that came to mind. Some nights I talked about something funny I saw online. Other nights I shared my worries. Sometimes I even talked about English itself. Today I practiced the American R sound. It's getting easier, but I still mess up when I'm tired. Listening to those notes weeks later showed me how much I had grown. My sentences became smoother, my tone more confident, my accent more consistent. Was it easy? No. There were days when I didn't want to talk at all. Days I felt stuck. Days my tongue got lazy and everything came out wrong. But those days were part of the journey. I reminded myself that even native speakers trip over their words. What mattered was the habit, not the perfection. One big turning point came when I decided to mimic emotion. Before, I was only copying pronunciation. But I realized American English isn't just about sound. It's about attitude. Americans speak with their feelings. Sarcasm, excitement, hesitation, surprise. They're all part of the accent. So I picked scenes from movies or sitcoms and acted them out. I chose a scene from Friends where Rachel argues with Ross. I rewound it 100 times, mimicking her anger, her tone, her pauses. It's not that common. It doesn't happen to every guy, and it is a big deal. I shouted in my room like I was in a theater. It felt ridiculous, and it was thrilling. That experience taught me to speak with my face, not just my mouth. My eyebrows moved. My shoulders shrugged. My energy shifted. That's when I truly started sounding American, because I wasn't just copying sounds. I was expressing life in English. Then I began mixing my practice with creativity. I wrote short stories in English and performed them aloud in front of the mirror. I made fake job interview videos. I practiced voiceovers for commercials, pretending I was in an ad for toothpaste or sneakers. I used apps like Elsa Speak and imitation videos on TikTok. I even created imaginary characters to talk to, like Sam from New York or Kelly from California, and I'd switch back and forth, practicing both sides of a dialogue. This kind of solo speaking gave me the courage to experiment. I wasn't afraid to mess up because no one was listening. And that freedom made me better, faster. I started noticing that when I did speak to others, whether online or in rare, real-life situations, I felt more ready. My mouth didn't freeze. My thoughts didn't panic. I could recall phrases faster. My pronunciation was clearer. And best of all, people understood me. A few even complimented my accent, asking if I had ever lived in the U.S. That simple question was like a gift. Because no, I had never been to America, but I had practiced like I lived there. That's what speaking out loud did for me. It connected the sounds I had trained in my ears with the confidence I needed in my voice. It didn't require fancy tools, just consistency, imagination, and a little bit of courage every single day. And now, as I stood in front of my mirror one morning, practicing a conversation where I was ordering coffee in a New York cafe, I said, "Hi, can I get a medium caramel latte to go, please?" And suddenly it didn't feel like an act. It felt like me. There's a certain point on any journey where the training wheels have to come off and where the safe space you built for yourself becomes too small for your growth. That moment came to me one crisp morning, standing in front of my mirror, holding an invisible coffee cup in my hand, repeating the line for maybe the 100th time. "Hi, can I get a medium caramel latte to go, please?" I said it confidently. My tone had the casual friendliness of an American barista scene I had watched countless times. But something strange happened. I wasn't satisfied. For the first time, my own voice, practiced and polished, echoed back to me. But it wasn't enough, because I wasn't ordering coffee in real life. I was still in my room, still alone, still safe. And that's when I realized, if I wanted to own the American accent, I had to take it out into the world. Bit by bit, that realization scared me. I had gotten so comfortable talking to myself. There was no fear of mistakes, no awkward silence, no judgment. But deep inside, I knew that speaking alone could only take me so far. I needed the tension that comes when someone is listening. I needed to feel the pressure of real-time responses, unpredictable questions, and raw emotional reactions. So I made a quiet promise to myself that day. I would start speaking to real people, even if it was just a few words at first, even if my voice trembled, even if my sentences didn't come out perfectly. I began with baby steps. My first real conversation wasn't some deep, philosophical debate. It was a simple voice message. There was a language exchange app I had joined months earlier but never used seriously. One evening, after pacing around my room and rehearsing the message 10 times, I finally hit record. My heart raced. "Hey, this is Sophia. I'm trying to improve my American accent. Would love to practice together if you're open to it." I kept it short. When I played it back, I winced a little. It wasn't flawless, but I sent it. That single message was the start of a chain reaction. The next morning, I woke up to a reply. His name was Marcus from Chicago. He responded with a cheerful voice note. "Hey, Sophia. Sure, I'd be happy to chat. You already sound pretty great, honestly." That message lit a fire inside me. Someone from America just said I sounded great. I played that message 5 times, smiling like a child. I wrote down the way he said honestly, with a soft T and a stretched lie. I repeated it to myself all day. We started exchanging voice notes daily. He'd ask me about my favorite movies, and I'd reply with little stories. Sometimes I would mess up. I'd pause mid-sentence, laugh nervously, and say, "Sorry, let me try that again." But Marcus never made me feel small. He was kind, patient, and, most importantly, natural. And with every response I sent, I heard my voice getting smoother. I stopped pausing so much. I started linking words naturally, saying dunno instead of don't know, and even picked up casual phrases like, "For real?" and "No way, that's wild." But online voice messages were still filtered. I could re-record if I messed up. So I took the next step, video calls. The first time I saw Marcus on a video chat, my palms were sweating. I was scared my accent would disappear under pressure. But he greeted me with a big smile and said, "Yo, there you are. Good to finally meet you." I laughed nervously and said, "Yeah, I'm a little nervous." And he replied, "Don't worry. You sound chill already." And with that, we talked for 20 minutes. Not perfect, not scripted, just real. I even caught myself laughing like an American. Short, open, expressive. That call changed me. I didn't stop with Marcus. I found a few more language partners. Some were from New York, some from Texas, others from California. Each had their own style of speech. New Yorkers talked fast and cut their vowels short. Californians stretched their words and added a bit of laid-back charm. I started mimicking them on the spot. One friend from Brooklyn said, "You're killing it with this accent." And I immediately wrote that phrase in my notebook. These conversations taught me something textbooks never did: how Americans really talk when they're not being formal. I learned when to use like for emphasis, how literally could mean something dramatic instead of factual, and how saying "what's up" didn't actually need a deep answer. I practiced timing, tone, and emotion. And for the first time in my life, English didn't feel like a second language. It felt like an alternate version of me. But I didn't stop at online practice. I wanted real-life moments too. So I started speaking to strangers in English whenever I had the chance. I would ask for directions in English, even in my own city, hoping someone understood. At coffee shops, I ordered in American English, not just with the words, but with the attitude, "Hey, can I get a small iced mocha? No whipped cream, thanks." The first few times people gave me confused looks, but I didn't let that stop me. My confidence had to grow through discomfort. I even signed up for local events where English-speaking expats gathered. At one open mic event, I introduced myself in front of 10 people. "Hi, I'm Sophia, and I've been working on my American accent for about a year now. Please tell me if I sound like a tourist or a local." People laughed, clapped, and one person said, "You sounded like you were born in LA." That single compliment gave me more motivation than any grammar book ever could. But the journey wasn't all praise and progress. There were hard moments too. Once, during a group Zoom call with native speakers, I completely blanked out. They were speaking fast, joking with each other, and I felt lost. I smiled and nodded, but inside I was panicking. After the call, I cried. I told myself maybe I'd never truly fit in, no matter how much I practiced. But the next morning, I remembered how far I'd come. That girl who was too shy to say hello out loud a year ago had just survived a live group call with Americans. I wiped my tears and opened another conversation. I kept going. Over time, something beautiful happened. My brain started thinking in American English. Not translating, not pausing, just flowing. I'd watch a video and naturally repeat phrases with the right tone. I'd respond to friends in text with casual phrases like "no worries" or "sounds good," without second guessing. I even dreamt in English one night, and when I woke up, I wrote the conversation down. "You're not just practicing," I wrote. "You're becoming." And perhaps the most magical moment came when I was in a local bookstore, browsing the English section, and a tourist couple asked me, "Excuse me, do you work here?" I shook my head and smiled. "No, I don't, but maybe I can help?" They looked surprised. "You sound American," they said. I walked home that day feeling 10 feet tall. Taking the accent into real conversations wasn't easy. It meant facing fear, embarrassment, and discomfort. It meant being patient with myself when I stuttered or got stuck. But those real conversations are where my voice became alive, where I stopped being a student of English and started becoming a speaker, a real one. Now, when I hear myself talk, I don't flinch. I don't hesitate. I feel proud. Not because I sound perfect, but because I sound authentic. The voice I used to imagine in my dreams is now the voice I carry into the world. And I built it one conversation at a time. When I look back at where I started, just a girl with a dream of sounding natural in English, I smile. Not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. This journey wasn't just about mastering an American accent. It was about discovering my own voice in a language I once feared to speak aloud. It started with my ears. I trained them like an artist studies color, slowly, patiently, listening not just for words but for rhythm, tone, and emotion. I surrounded myself with the music of American speech until it lived in my head like a second heartbeat. I didn't understand everything at first, but I trusted the process. I trusted that by listening deeply, my voice would find its way. Then, I practiced speaking out loud, even when no one was around. Especially then, I became my own teacher, my own audience, my own stage. I talked to mirrors, to walls, to empty air. I built fluency not in silence but in sound. Alone in my room, I made English mine. I stumbled, laughed, corrected myself, and tried again. I turned every quiet space into a rehearsal for the life I wanted to live. And then, finally, I stepped into the real world. Bit by bit, I brought my voice into conversations, with strangers, with native speakers, with friends across oceans. Every message I sent, every word I spoke was a small act of courage. And with every brave moment, my confidence grew. I wasn't perfect, but I was present. I was real. Today, I don't speak English to pass a test or get approval. I speak because it connects me. It opens doors. It makes me feel alive. The American accent I once admired from afar is now a part of me, not as a costume, but as a language I've truly lived. So if you're where I once was, listening quietly, afraid to speak, let me tell you this, your voice matters. Start small. Start alone. Start where you are. And don't stop, because one day, like me, you'll open your mouth, and a voice will come out that even you didn't know was possible. Not just an English voice, not just an American accent, but your voice, strong, confident, and free. And that will be your real fluency.